Hi everyone, my name is Angela. I have many labels for me. I am an art lover, a sociology and psychology student, but today I want you to see me as an observer of the world. There's something I have been thinking about. A while ago, I was at this famous art museum in Paris housing Impressionist paintings, including the famous water lilies by Claude Monet. So I was naturally confused as I stood in front of this collection of minimalist paintings, essentially a roll of canvases under the intro guide, The Act of Looking, painted in sheer white. And you can see it looks like this. So yeah, sheer white. And the average price of these paintings is around tens of millions of RMB. And with the most famous one here, auctioned off at a whopping price of 100 million. The commentator beside me whispered, "Power achieved through simplicity, right?" I was like, yeah, if you say so. Faking the response. Inside, I was spiraling. Am I missing the convention here? I thought. Is there a shared understanding here that I'm not part of? I don't know about you, but I just don't think this painting is worth that price. I wasn't just looking at a painting back then. I was conducting a real-time audit of my own cultural literacy, terrified that I was about to be exposed as an outsider to the art world that I love. At the same time, I was trying to decipher the machinery behind such insane value judgment. How could these people, these viewers, consumers, and auctioneers, so unquestioningly validate such radical decisions made about the price of that piece of work? It was as if they all possessed a secret map to a logic I couldn't see, accepting the pricing of art as not as shock, but as a simple, unspoken agreement about consumption. It made me wonder, what exactly do our perceptions of value rely on? Was it because of the prestige of that museum, or did everyone else's extolment somehow enhance people's evaluation of artwork? And under a quite contrasting circumstance, I learned about the Dafen oil painting village in Shenzhen, a place often dubbed as the world's factory for replica paintings. Here, artists recreate famous works by masters like Van Gogh and Monet, and received orders from all around the world. In fact, in recent years, it has made a great deal of effort trying to transition from replicating Western masterpieces to building a brand characterized by its own original styles and niche. Yet, after some quick research, I found that this change isn't well recognized by some people. Comments like replications are of no value, or that they're impersonators, not artists, infused comment sections, attaching labels that negatively shape the way people view these talented creators. This July, I found myself in the bustling, paint-scented heart of Dafen Village. And what struck me was not at all the commerce or the so-called factory line production of art. It was the sheer breathtaking talent and skills. I watched how artists conjure vivid landscapes with a flick of the wrist, capture Shenzhen's city skyline with exquisite brushstrokes based on their own beautiful and scintillating imaginations. Their hands moved intricately on the canvases that spoke of years of hard work and practice. They are not creating what those internet commentaries refer to as valueless art. To me, they're masters of technique, people who genuinely love art, just like I do. And speaking from the perspective of an art student, I know what it's like to work behind the curtains, creating things valued by other people, but with your own identity hidden, as if passively watching them behind a one-way mirror, desperately trying to repress the urge of telling them, "Hey, that's my painting, do you care? Do you know that I painted that?" A message that could be sent but could never be reached. I went on to interview some of the artists there and coincidentally uncovered a hidden economic pipeline. One of the artists working on a huge landscape painting told me that he usually sells paintings which he spent weeks crafting the details of to a classy high-end gallery for around 2,000 RMB for a month. The same painting is then typically sold at a price 3 to 4 times higher by the same gallery to a terminal consumer, sometimes landing at over 100,000 RMB. He said that the artwork themselves do not matter, which is quite counterintuitive. What's important, he said, is the context, the brand and the prestige of the gallery, its resource and its ability to reach that top-tier clientele. And that being said, although I cannot arbitrarily decide for the artist the fairness of this process, it made me go back to that question. What exactly shapes our differing perceptions of values? The same piece of art can simply be repackaged and rebranded by a gallery, and it would be completely different, much more expensive. Often artists receive thousands for a painting they spent months on, and this is when business is good. While those sheer blank canvases at the Parisian Museum are easily worth hundreds of millions. Are these differences random or purely based on aesthetics? Or are they influenced by hidden factors such as the artist's fame or brand, which do not necessarily equate talent or hard work? Was it because of the contrast itself between the museum's classy, avant-garde interior and Dafan Village's humble but vibrant and authentic atmosphere? So I decided to test this. I set up a simple social experiment at a mall in Bao'an and to see what creates value. I showed the same painting to people but shared 4 different stories. 2 were about the contrasting settings. One being the classy gallery with Baroque interior, which I borrowed from the Metropolitan. The other was this unembellished workshop with paint-scented floor and walls, exactly like the ones I saw in Dafan Village. And the other 2 featured fake artist introductories, which I counterfeited. One was this freelance artist with all those fancy titles and education at a top-tier academy. The other one being a Dafan artist who never received academy training and self-taught all the skills and techniques. I created 4 setups, each lasted for 2 days. And people's reaction was a living snapshot of sociologist Howard Becker's theory of the art world in action. They didn't just see a painting. They were performing the role of art viewers, actively participating and responding to the context around it. Some visitors instinctively took photos of the gallery setup. Parents let their children sit around and play in front of the spaces, interacting with it as if a familiar, accessible craft. And some people would stand in front of the guide for lengthy periods in silent contemplation, their postures and focus shifting to meet the unspoken rules of this mysterious world in the middle of a bustling mall. I set up a board in each of the 4 groups, asking people to approximate the amount of money they would be willing to pay if they were to buy the painting. Astonishingly, the results weren't just merely different, they were staggering. The same brush strokes, the same colors were praised significantly higher simply because they were placed in a prestigious background. They were praised significantly higher simply because a piece of paper with a top-tier degree and some credentials, some artist labels written on top, was stuck next to that painting. And this made me wonder how an artwork may not have an intrinsic value labeled at the time it was created. Its value was made, constructed, created that way by social labels of environment, of identities that trigger either the stereotype of unoriginal replication or the halo effect of a prestigious brand. But this machinery doesn't just exist in the art world. It also applies to people, as highlighted by the famous labeling theory, also posited by Howard Becker in the 1960s. Essentially, the label is everything. People like you and me are not intrinsically awkward, brilliant, weird, high-achieving, underachieving, introverted, extroverted. These impressions are created and labeled by words, by comments, through interactions that actively and capriciously define their worth, role, and status based on people's subjective views about certain traits of others. Every one of us, our identities may have been shaped in the same manner by a judgment call made by a committee of our peers, by labels of language and discourse, gestures, and even eye contact, by a rule book we didn't write. But why would it be harmful, you may ask? It should be fine for our perceptions to be fluid, for we all see the world in different ways. The danger, however, emerges when we take but do not think. When we attach unfavorable labels, we're not merely describing but participating in an active process of definition, a process powered by cognitive biases that crave quick, context-driven shortcuts, a process built on pre-existing labels and may elicit even more. Psychology calls this anchoring bias, the tendency to buy in and rely on pre-existing information when making decisions. These labels become the social currency that allows us to navigate a complex world without thinking too hard. However, when more and more people uncritically and repeatedly consume these environment-coded labels previously assigned by others, fleeting impressions repeat themselves and solidify into lasting, damaging preconceptions that can define an individual in the eyes of society. We see this every day when we mistake someone's quietness for aloofness, or a student's bad grades for a lack of aspiration or intelligence. As one of the 8.2 billion people, we process the countless overflowing information in the world on a daily basis. We make decisions, openly or quietly, in our minds or written formally on paper, in splits of seconds or over the course of years. Think about the sheer number of decisions we make. How many of those may have been influenced by these biases and labels? Once there was a girl on the internet who was smart and aspiring. She just received an offer for graduate studies, and she was on the way to realizing a life of her dreams. We are similar in the terms of liking to put vibrant colors on our hairs. As you can see, mine is green. Hers was pink. That hair color itself was merely a personal trait, something that did not carry any inherent meaning on its own. But it was contaminated by derogatory labels, by people with severely ill-guided intentions. Once a label readily forms, it proliferates, leading to tens of thousands of iterative messaging powerful enough to destroy a person. I want to say that these defacing stereotypes and labels can often have serious consequences on other people. Examples are countless in various fields. Biased witness testimonies may lead to faulty convictions. Teachers who favor high-achieving or obedient students and label those who does not fit into that archetype as underachieving or troublesome or deviant may risk damaging students' self-worth and change the way they see themselves. But I think the best and maybe the worst part is these processes may not even be deliberate. These biases often go unnoticed, operating in the silent backgrounds of our heads, influencing our perceptions and actions without us even realizing or agreeing to. We may do something with the best of our intentions in mind, yet still be guided by these hidden undercurrents, leading to outcomes we never intend to create. Then what can we do? What can we take from the realization of these labels reinforced by biases? Well, I think our thoughts may never be completely right, accurate, or unbiased because nobody is perfect and we're allowed to make mistakes. But I think what we can do is to be critical of the ideas and labels handed to us, to not fall for another person's narratives easily and credulously, to be vigilant of the confounding factors that interfere with our decision-making. Let us become critical thinkers who question the symbols around us, resist the easy allure of stereotypes, and most importantly, remember that every single one of us, our own stories and identities, is not a price tag dictated by others, but a story we have the power to write ourselves. So the next time you find yourself quickly sizing up a person, a rumor, an idea, pause, ask yourself, am I seeing what's truly there? Or am I just reading the label someone else has handed to me? If you are misconstrued, remember that those judgments are mere labels. They cannot define you as the holistic person that you are. We navigate a world of interactions and interpretations, constantly selecting and projecting labels in an attempt to capture the essence of things. But opinions of others do not have to become your objective truth. So I'll leave you with this. What labels are you using, and which ones have been placed on you? Thank you very much.